God reigns over the nations. God sits on his holy throne. The princes of the peoples gather as the people of the God of Abraham. For the shields of the earth belong to God. He is highly exalted. Psalm 47, verses 8 and 9. In verse 9, the psalmist returns to the sovereignty of God. God is not just sovereign over Israel, but also the nations. In the second part of verse 8, he says, God sits on his holy throne. A king cannot sit when he is under threat, but our God sits, which simply means he always is in control. In Psalm 2 verse 4 we read, He who sits in the heavens laughs, the Lord holds them in derision. The nation of Israel was and is constantly under threat and hostility because of the surrounding nations. It is against this background that we should interpret verse 9. The princes of the peoples gather as the people of the God of Abraham. Notice the unity as the people of the God of Abraham. How can this happen? In Ephesians 2 verse 14 and 15 we read, For he himself is our peace, who has made us both one, and has broken down in his flesh the dividing wall of hostility, by abolishing the law of commandments expressed in ordinances, that he might create in himself one new man in the place of two, so making peace. It happens through the person of Jesus Christ. It is this unity that brings intense praise that we saw in verse 1. The irony is today we file lawsuits against each other in the court, and then we get together on a Sunday morning to worship God. This worship would be obnoxious to God. Paul in 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 7 says, To have lawsuits at all with one another is already a defeat for you. Why not rather suffer wrong? Why not rather be defrauded? We are worried that the coronavirus is disrupting our worship. Listen to what God tells the people of Israel. In Amos chapter 5 verse 23 and 24, Take away from me the noise of your songs, to the melody of your harps I will not listen. But let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. May God help us to forgive one another and bear with one another, so that He is exalted. Have a blessed weekend.